Hello, my fellow Americans, and welcome back to Scarbite. So, guys, today's video got finally the template of what we're going to be using for future video gun reviews and whatnot. So, what I like to start off with is the basic historical value of these firearms, and then I like to talk about the firearm and the features that it has, stock mainly. And then I like to talk about what I've done to mine and the changes that I've made since I've owned it, and just some of the little tips and tricks that I could give you guys along the way. So without further ado, guys, I would like to welcome the SCAR H17. Ladies and gentlemen, the weapon that requires no introduction. My favorite weapon, one of my favorite weapons out of my arsenal, and I'll tell you what the other one is here in the near future, but the SCAR H308. Let's talk about that for a little bit, but also I want to make a slight comparison what the SCAR must have went through back in the early 2000s compared to what the Sig Sauer Spear is going through right now. So if you guys can remember back to the early days of 2000 and during the Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan conflicts and whatnot, there were a lot of weapons available. I mean, we're talking like a lot of different AR platforms that were available. All the way from DMRs like the M11 or the Mark 11. There were just so many iconic weapons. The M4, the M16, the AK. There were so many iconic weapons that had their ups and downs. Every rifle does. No rifle is perfect. But the Special Forces decided that they need something a little different, and the Belgians said, "We've got the rifle for you," and came up with the SCAR. And the Belgians, we obviously know they're great at two things in life, murder and waffles. So we've got the SCAR. Like I said, we're going to talk about it, but what regiment the SCAR must have went through, I imagine, is very simple to what the Sig Sauer Spear is going through right now, which is kind of an interesting comparison to think about, like how some people hate on new things, like you can't teach an old dog new tricks kind of mentality. And I feel like we've got that same issue today right now, with the spear being produced and whatnot, and being used in our armed forces, kind of trying to replace the AR platform, or the M4 or the M16 or the AR-10. Which you're never going to be able to replace a classic. The M1 Garand is still one of the the most iconic weapons. It's still to this day. The BAR, the BAR, the Browning Assault Rifle, probably one of the most iconic weapons. We just never will forget some of the best out there, the best looking, the best sounding, the best just overall weapon of destruction. So we're going to be talking about the history of this weapon real quick. I'd like to start off with talking about, like I said previously, the history, the weapon itself, and then what I've done to it. So the history of the weapon was obviously its origins back to early 2000s during the Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan conflict. The name itself is actually interesting to me, at least. It is a abbreviation of an abbreviation. So the S in SCAR actually stands for SOF, that is SOF, which stands for Special Operations Forces. The C in SCAR stands for combat, and the A stands for assault, and the R stands for rifle, and the H in SCAR H stands for heavy. Now, this is the middle child of the SCAR family. We have the SCAR L16, we have the SCAR H17, and we have the SCAR S20. Now, the difference in all three of those is it's basically I really don't know how to explain it other than The SCAR L stands for light, and light is because it shoots a 5.56 or 223 variant caliber. The SCAR H stands for heavy. It shoots a way better bullet, in my opinion. It shoots a 7.62 by 51 or a 308 variant, and that is a big boy round. 5.56 is able to reach out to, max velocity, I believe, is about, effective velocity is about 500 yards or something like that. The 308 is capable of like 1,000, max effective range is going to be about 1,000 to maybe 800 yards. So I think that's very interesting to take into account. So the SCAR S20 is basically the SCAR H, just in a sniper variant. It just looks like a sniper rifle. It's the stock is completely different. The upper is significantly different. The lower is really the only thing that stayed the same, and the caliber even stayed the same. As far as I know, the caliber is still 308 or 7.62 by 51 for the SCAR 20. So here today with us, though, I just have the SCAR H, and again, one of the most iconic weapons, in my opinion, from Modern Warfare 2. It's just one of my favorite rifles. It was considered the longest time as a bucket list rifle for me, but now the bucket list is just World War II weapons now. So now that I conquered this hill, let's move on. So the rifle itself was for, the origins date back again to early 2000s, and was hand selected, hand picked for special forces operations. They needed something that gave a little bit more reliability, but also used the same caliber. The AK was absolutely one of the most reliable out there. However, the U.S. soldiers had more 5.56, 308 calibers in their arsenal than 7.62 by 39. So a more reliable variant of the SCAR was the SCAR 16, which shot 5.56, but also needed a little bit more distance from their close quarters to far distance engagements they would find themselves in the Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan terrains. They needed something that would be able to go from kicking indoors to then have to shoot about 1,000 yards distance. So going from CQB to long distance engagements and stuff like that, they needed something a little bit different, and that's where the SCAR really came in handy with its multiple different variants of calibers, and still being such a reliable platform. Having very same intricate working parts, such as the 5.56 the M4, M16, the AR platform. Its controls are very much similar, and it operates very similar. Taking it apart is very similar. There are so many similarities to this and any other AR platform, including the caliber, such as the AR-10, being a 308 variant, more of the battle rifle of the ARs, but again, being a single stroke piston driven rifle, this was going to be more durable than just a typical AR. So that was something to really look forward to. That was something that gave this an upper hand. It had the reliability of the AK, but also had the conveniency of the caliber, more known to the United States soldiers. So I could see a huge plus in this, being in the Special Forces arsenal. But with all that being said, with the historical value of this aside, let's jump into what this weapon comes with. And that's where things get a little sad. Not too bad. I still, again, one of my favorite rifles. You do have to put a little bit more love into her, though. So, the stock trigger is a trigger. Like, this thing, you have to pull 100%. It is a little bit of a... It's a bit of a pull, I mean, of all the modifications I've done to my rifles, a hair trigger is one of my favorites, and this one does not have that, So, and if you ever did want to upgrade to it, switching over to like a Geisley trigger or something like that would be the route to take. But you're looking at about $300, and that's not cheap, especially just after purchasing a $3,000 rifle. And then everything else you have to put onto her. Of course, you're going to need a good optic because the iron sights it does come with are really nice. However, not the best. I mean, I like it. It's a nice little push up, and they're built different. Like, these things are nice. They're not going anywhere. They're not the cheap made AR iron sights. They're very nice. I like them a lot. Then we've got the barrel. Guys, I can't say enough good things about this barrel. The FN, if they're known for anything besides murder and Belgian waffles, they are good for their rifles, for their barrels. The rifling on these barrels, just everything about these barrels, I absolutely love and adore about it. The accuracy, guys, I can't say enough good things about it. It's one of my favorite rifles out there. It's one of my favorite barrels out there as well. So, moving on. Basic stock, a lot of people like to refer it to as an UGG boot. I say that's very disrespectful, but I see the comparison. Nice thing about this is it has different cheek adjustment, which is very, very different than your basic stock. It's got a nice little cheek raise. It's got a nice little collapsible stock as well. Very nice for transporting and moving around or just storing and whatnot. We've got the most basic handle you could have ever put on a battle rifle. This is not a problem for me because when people, for some reason people find this little nub to be a extreme annoyance for when trying to ADS or when trying to go from secondary to primary. A lot of people find this a little annoying. I've trained with this for many of years. This was the only rifle, back when this is the only rifle platform I've ever known. So for me, this just feels like just like another rifle to me. It's not a big difference, but that is easily changeable. I get it, $3,000 right out of the box. I shouldn't have to change anything to make this gun more efficient or effective or feel comfortable. I understand that argument. However, every rifle I've ever owned and purchased has always needed some love put into it, and this is no exception. So, let's talk real quick about the reciprocating charging handle. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you the good news. The good news is that FN, after many years, has already changed and updated the SCAR H to no longer having a reciprocating charging handle. What that means is that the charging handle, whenever you fire, it reciprocates with that recoil and whatnot. It is a long stroke, piston driven bolt, and that just and you can tell. You can tell. And that charging handle absolutely can get in the way. The whole reason people really argue about that is because what is called scar bite. When you have the charging handle on the left side and you're basically beer gripping your rifle and you go to shoot, that charging handle, because it reciprocates, is going to land in the middle of your thumb. And this is gonna, this is gonna be a little painful for those who aren't expecting it. But there's an easy solution to it. If you've ever operated with or played with or shot a AK-47, they all have reciprocating charging handles as well, being a long stroke piston and driven, rifle platform. It was no exception. However, the spot of this charging handle was on the right side of the weapon, and an easy way to operate it was just left hand under and around, operate the charging handle that way. I see no issue with that. It operates just like the AK does. To me, that's not an issue. To me, I don't mind that. It just is a little different going from a AR platform, how it operates, to playing with the charging handle and whatnot. I get it. It absolutely can be a little different for those who are used to that AR platform, and then all of a sudden have to use that charging handle like an AK. I understand the confusion, and I understand that sometimes that could be a little bit of an annoyance because your mind and body and your instinct is to operate it like an AR, except for that charging handle. And I can understand how that to some people that would be a great annoyance and just not very helpful. However, train is the biggest and best advice I have for anybody when dealing with firearms. Train and play with it. And I don't mean play with it like, you know, just literally playing with it. I mean train and use it a lot to get that muscle memory down. Whenever you put this in your hands, you know how to operate it to the best of your abilities. And just like it was an extension of your body, you know how to operate this weapon. So that's important, you know, but it only is obtainable and achievable if you train and play with it. You know, you have to just know the inner workings of it. You have to just utilize it a lot to get that down. Some people don't want to do that. You know, some people who have regular 9-to-5 jobs, I can understand, you know, you're not gonna want to just, you know, for those middle-class Americans, this isn't going to be something that they want to just, you know, pick up on a whim. You know, I can understand that. One feature also I did forget to mention, we also do have a collapsible and adjustable stock here. It's very nice. I'm big perks out to the stock itself. A lot of people like to make fun of it because it's designed, but it's one of the most comfortable stocks I've ever owned, and especially with it being such a hard hitting, such a hard recoil. I don't mind it. I think it's very nice and comfortable. It's super cool. And of course, it's completely changeable. I mean, you can absolutely change it. If the stock version is not your favorite, it's absolutely changeable. So anyways, obviously it doesn't come with any optics. It comes with one magazine, and that's it. You get you don't get a forward grip, you don't get a flashlight, you don't get anything. You just get the weapon, the iron sights, this basic handle, and the stuff. But guys, that's it. That's all you get to it. So what changes have I made to it? I've bought a nice Streamlight, just a black one. I didn't really go with the FDE. I couldn't find an FDE, but I went with the Streamlight just because, you know, a 1,000 lumen Streamlight, just because I'm a big fan of putting lights on my weapons. I went with a I believe it is it's a 1 to 6 times 24 Vortex Viper sight on this. I went with this for a couple of different reasons. A lot of people like the CQB hybrid look to it, and I do too, and I really thought about it for a long time. I was like, you know, at some point I'm going to own one, and I still believe that. I still think that at some point I'm going to own a hybrid, which is the holographic sight and then the 3 times magnifier behind it. However, I have found that I really like this a little bit more because I don't need to constantly worry about batteries. If I need to put this in my safe and I don't end up seeing it for a long time, I still know that this is going to be, it's going to not just hold my 0 until, you know, I need to pull it out and, you know, use it again. But when I do pull it out and use it again, I don't need to worry about batteries because it has a fixed reticle sight in there that is not powered solely on batteries. So I really, really love that feature, that it is just got a nice reticle sight built into it. The Vortex Viper is probably one of my favorites out there. And Vortex is just one of my favorites in general. They're super reliable, they're super nice, and they're just easier to work with, in my opinion. I can't say enough good things about Vortex. Next thing up, I just have a basic, nice little angled forward grip, Picatinny, of course. And then the next up, I've got the very nice Magpul Sling. I have been such a big fan of these Magpul Slings. I think I even bought like 2 or 3 of them just because I'm putting them on more of my rifles. I love the sling. But as far as everything else is concerned, guys, that's all I've done to it. I picked up a few mags, of course. You know, about 3 or 4 mags, just because those mags are extremely expensive, but well worth it in my opinion. Not only is the magazine going to be a little bit more expensive, but being a 308 or a 7.62x51 variant, ammo is going to be a little bit more expensive as well. But anybody that is used to buying 308 calibers or a little bit more bigger rounds, understands that premise. You know, you understand that it's gonna, you know, that's not unfair for, you know, the caliber. But I couldn't see myself pulling that much money for another 5.56 variant weapon. I've got about 4 or 5 other AR platforms, and I couldn't see myself pulling out that kind of money for just another, you know, 5.56 variant or 5.56 to 20, you know, 223. I didn't see the point in that, and this was my only 308 or /7.62 by 51 variant weapon out there until I got the M1A, of course. But it's still one of my favorites. I picked this one up and I utilize it just like I would with any other AR. I love it. It's super reliable, super nice. And I'm not trying to sell it to you. I'm just trying to say, you know, let you know that how much of a big fan of the SCAR I actually am. So, with that being said, guys, I think we've talked about just a little bit of everything there is to talk about with the SCAR. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns about the SCAR and what kind of stuff to utilize it, you came to the right place. So, guys, with the reciprocating charging handle being an issue, also comes the scopes being an issue. So, with that forward and backwards motion of that single action or single that piston, you know, long stroke piston driven bolt carrier assembly you're going to need a little bit of a beefier optics on here. So I have a little bit of, you know, a spread for you guys, if you will. So the Trijicon ACOG runs about $1,500 or more. Still, I mean, it's Trijicon. It's an ACOG. Guys, those things were built to withstand a nuclear... I'm kidding. I don't know about nuclear disasters or anything like that. Those things, if there was ever an optics that could survive a nuclear blast, though, I would bet money it is a Trijicon. So anyways, Trijicons are really nice. I will probably never own one because that's ridiculous. $1,500 for an optic that literally isn't even a, you know, a times... It's literally just a red dot. It's a beefier red dot. A little too expensive for me to even think about. But and I will put a little side note as well on there with the Trijicon ACOG. It has bad eye relief, and it's not a big fan to have on a 308 variant rifle, because with the amount of kick that you get from this, having your eye, you know, centimeters or inches away from your you know, your optic, you could, you know, wake up with an eye patch or something. The next one I have for you is the Vortex Viper. The Vortex Viper is about $600, but you can add probably another $200 to that, because you probably are going to want a really good, reliable mount for it as well. Now, these are optics that are capable of withstanding the SCAR itself. So when I'm telling you guys these, I'm not just saying because I'm a big fan of them. I'm saying this because the SCAR is capable of damaging, you know, really expensive ones. So be careful on, you know, on which optics you're purchasing for it. Now, of course, with this new update to the SCARs, you don't have to worry about that as much, because the recoil wouldn't, you know, with it not being a reciprocating charging handle, that bolt carrier assembly is not going to be that big of an issue when it comes down to the optics, because you've got that amount of force going in 2 different directions. You've got it going back and forwards, and optics are not meant to withstand that kind of tension. So with that update, you don't have to worry about it. Anyways, Primary Arms Raptor, it's about $400. You know, the Vortex Viper and the Primary Arms, these are really good optics for their money, is what I'm trying to say. Now, these are just the scopes. This is not the mounts. Like I said, probably about, you know, $400 plus $200 more just for the mount itself. But it's going to be extremely worth it, in my opinion, just because it's, you know, absolutely an affordable price for a optic that is going to be able to withstand and still have really good eye relief and still have really good quality. The quality on the glass for the price, extremely well. Next up, we have the Eotech Hybrid Hhs. This one's going to run a little bit more. This one's going to be about $1,170. Now, you know, again, being that close quarters distance, guys, when it comes down to getting rifles and optics and stuff like that in the mix, I truly believe that you should be able to see whatever it is you're shooting at. And a weapon that is capable of, again, max effective range is probably about 1,000 yards with this. I would say, a CQB weapon is nice, but this gets you the best of both worlds. Let me just go ahead and talk about the Eotech real quick. The Eotech is going to be that holographic sight with that 3x magnifier behind it. That 3x magnifier will get you a little bit more distance than just your basic red dot, of course, but it's still not the the Vortex Viper or the primary arms distance as far as magnification is. And I think that that's extremely important. You should be able to, whatever your rifle is capable of doing, you should at least go halfway with that. So if your rifle is able to reach out, let's say 500 yards, you should be at least able to see 300 yards or 200 yards out in the distance. Whatever optic you put on there, typically, whatever rifle is capable of, typically you should match that with your optic. Now, not a lot of people do that just because that CQB, they're looking for something home defense. I'm not going to say this is a home defense weapon, but you could. Oh, the last but not least optic I have for you guys is going to be the $2,000 L-Can. Guys, this is a brick of an optic. This L-Can is capable of reaching from 0 to 4 times, which it's just a switch of a lever on there. You can go from 0, just to a basic red dot to about 4 times the distance. It's nice, but $2,000 is a lot. Now it's going to be able to withstand a lot. It's going to be able to withstand the SCAR for sure. But I don't think you would need a $2,000 scope just for your SCAR. The SCAR does kick a lot, yes, but all the previous cost efficient scopes that I've already mentioned are also going to be able to withstand it. So I'm just trying to make it a little bit more affordable for you guys if you're looking in the market to buying just a beauty of a rifle, a reliable battle rifle, and save yourself some heartache on optics here in the future, because a lot of people are going to tell you, you need a Trijicon, you need an L-Can, you need these extremely expensive, of course any gun store is going to tell you you need these one of their most expensive optics that they that they have, which to some degree I agree with, but not all the way. So I'm trying to help you guys out in a way of doing all this research. I've done tons of research on knowing what the SCAR is capable of, what the optics are capable of. I've done an intense amount of research, and these are the lists that I have for you when it comes down to the optics for a reciprocating charging handle for the SCAR H. Again, with the update, not too much of a worry. You can put anything you really want on there. But I still would go back to say, hey, make sure that you're at least half, your optic is at least half of what your rifle is capable of doing. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I really don't have anything else for you. I could talk to you guys about this all the time. I could endlessly talk about the SCAR H and how great it is, and all the stories that I've done with going out to the range with my buddies and and my family and whatnot, and how much fun we had shooting it and what it was like sighting it in. But I want you guys to go out and make memories as well with these things. So without further ado, guys, that's pretty much it for today's video. Take care. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I hope this video was very informative, and I hope you liked it. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much it, all I have for you. Take care. I hope you have a fantastic day, and stay safe, America.